Hello, everybody. I really hope everybody is well. I miss you guys. I don't actually know the full lyrics to this song. It's called Humility, and that's been the word that God has been pressing on me lately. And He wants me to remember to be humble. And I have missed you guys. And if I have missed you guys, then you most definitely have probably missed me. And I wasn't going to get on here today, clearly. I'm going to do this message in two parts because I have a lot to cover for our long anticipated marriage bed and my personal testimony from deliverance from the spirit of rejection and the freedom from rejection. I have a lot to talk about, so I need to do it in two parts. Teach me this kind of humility. Jesus, I'm struggling. Lord, I'm struggling to see you. I'm doubting your provision. Still not to remember that Jesus, you're my heart's first love, and you're leading me home through the fire and the flood to the place that I belong. Took a lot of notes for today, but we're going to open up with a psalm. So welcome, everybody. And I'm just going to give myself permission to talk and be really personal today because it's been so long and I have a lot that's been going on. And I know everybody else on here has been going through it. January felt like a whole year. The last message I did on healing our men, I really felt very strongly that in this, in that last month before we entered the Lunar New Year on February 1st, it was like a catch up for our kingdom men and a place for God to kind of swoop in and rescue them up, rapture them up into a place of refining. And so we've all been going through it, haven't we, Faith Family? And the enemy has really just been like beating people up with heaviness. And also a lot of people who have sort of just gone through the year of 2021. I see this and I say this with respect to everybody and respect to myself. We've been in a place of knowing God's plans, right? We've been in real understanding of what God is doing, and not everybody else has. So when people start waking up in this 2022 year, we're kind of like, well, yeah. And so the dark spirits really tried to combat us and make us feel, it's almost like it wants us to feel beaten down, and like all the progress and all of the level, the going higher up on the mountain feels like it's exhausting. And we're like looking around and we're like, okay, we've been prepared, but now there's more refining and more people waking up. So it's like a jostling. It feels like we've just been like, kind of like shake the baby. Yeah, it feels like that to me, which is not fun. And God really blessed me. He allowed me to go into a fast. And I want to talk about the number 10 because I just realized today is the 10th day of the month. So God revealed to me when I left Tahoe in October, the 10th month of last year on 10/10, I left on 10/10. And what God revealed to me, because I went through like a whole month and a half after I left where I didn't have a lot of certainty. And the Lord kept saying, you will know, and you will know on the 10th. And he said, this is a period of, I forget the words that he specifically said to me. I have it in a journal entry somewhere, and I apologize. I have so many journals, and literally this is like almost full, and I started it on the new year. So I'm already like needing a new journal. January was a lot. And going into the beginning of February, it's been a lot. So if you felt that, you are not alone. But he said that it was a time that started on 10/10, and I would know on the 10th. And so I was like, okay, well, what are you talking about? So God really rescued me. I thought he meant December 10th. And if you go back and you look at my video, the one that I posted, it says you will know. I think I did that on like a couple days after the 10th of December or something like that. Anyway, back to the point. So coming into this year, I wasn't even planning. I was kind of like go, 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 as all of us true believers were. We were like hitting the pavement. We were like, okay, new year, let's go. Blessings, 22, double portion. Like it's happening this year, right? We all know that. And I usually start my Januaries pretty slow. Like I know I have slow seasons in my business, and I go pretty gentle on myself going into January. But no, I started January off like hitting the pavement, like running full speed ahead. And the Lord put it on my heart, like do a fast. And I was like, okay, you're right. Like I've been a little bit too much on media. So I did a 10-day Daniel fast, media fast, where my evenings, and I don't normally do this, my evening times were all dedicated to reading scripture and just spending quiet time with the Lord and studying the Bible. And so, So in starting off that Daniel fast, I didn't know it would be so significant because the Lord took me literally on the eve of that fast. I had a very pivotal point with my kingdom spouse. Like it happened immediately. And then I hit a really low point. I went from heaven to Sheol in a day. And God was like, you're on the very first eve of the fast, the very first day of your fast. So just get through the fast. And I think he did that on purpose. He wanted me to know that this year is so significant that we have to get rid of any sort of that spirit of rejection that you've worked so hard on throughout your healing journey. And I'm going to open up with this psalm, and I'm going to talk about the original doorway of rejection in my life, which was with my mother, and how that rapture, that plucking up, that uprooting of that spirit had to happen in that fast. And God wanted me to see a very clear picture of the principality that attacked me through a person that I'm associated with through my phone. Had a very rude awakening through some messages on my phone from this person that I'm associated with through my business. And I don't want to give too many details on it, but it frightened me. And I'm laughing because I'm better now, but I'm glad that I was on the fast while it happened, because I don't know if I would have been able to handle it otherwise. So just know that the body of Christ has been really taking some low blows coming into this year, and principalities, and those are princes over high places, right? So this was the principality of LA, and there's heavy, it was through a pattern of pornography, and there's heavy child sex trafficking in LA. There's a history of it. So that principality was just frightening me, and through somebody I was associated with through my business. And so anyway, I've gotten through it now, but I'm sure all of us have felt something in the air where it's just been so heavy and so hard to feel connected, even in our own community. And I just want to say, I love everybody on here that has reached out to me. I feel so connected to all of you, specifically those who have reached out to me on Instagram. You guys are my community, and I'm in survival mode with that, to be honest with you, because in a place where I don't have access to a lot of people, a lot of women who are believers in my atmosphere and in my space and in my physical location, I have you all. So I want to encourage you, and I want to encourage you and bless you with this message about marriage bed preparation, and how my testimony can hopefully bring healing and wholeness into your future, because we all are looking forward to that day, right? So I'm going to open with Psalm 116, and I'm just going to read verses 1 through 3. I love the Lord, because he hath heard my voice and my supplications, because he hath inclined his ear unto me. Therefore will I call upon him as long as I live. The sorrows of death compassed me, and the pains of hell got hold upon me. I found trouble and sorrow. And truly, I felt, because I'm so sensitive, I'm a very sensitive person, which is another reason why I'm so grateful for this community. I sense things all the time in the spirit world. I kind of just like to refer myself as an empath to people who first meet me, because I just get a lot of downloads. I get a lot of feelings. I don't necessarily see things visually, but I feel things in the spirit world. And so when I felt that principality from through a doorway of pornography, through this person that I was associated with, it frightened me. And I don't want to be crude, and I'm not bragging. Pornography is not something that I've struggled with in my life. I feel very blessed in that I don't actually struggle with the spirit of addiction, but I do struggle with the spirit of rejection very heavily. So I saw a lot of that in this person that I care for. Obviously, I have a long business relationship with this person, but I know that they have suffered from a lot of things in their life, and some things that I can very closely relate to that I will talk about today. So the Lord said, because I was like, God, like, even now that I've seen all this and I've been through this, there's still a lingering heaviness. And I even see it on some of the lovely followers that I have connected with on here. And I just want you to know, like, this is a sentiment from me, but the Lord said, Sarah, my word comforts true believers, because true believers know hell and sorrow. And a lot of the Bible is written that way for us to know what it is to feel like we are in hell sometimes, and seeing those dark spirits and coming face to face with them through the deliverance from them. And then the Lord wrote down, because my mother's mental health has been something that she's always struggled with. And so even now, many people would even say, your mother should be put in a mental health facility because of her inabilities. And although that is true, she has brain damage from early alcoholism in her life. And she tried to take her life actually twice when she was younger. And she was hospitalized for that. And she's been thus diagnosed with bipolar. But really, she's kind of just like a dry alcoholic. She does not drink anymore. She's actually stopped drinking, committed to not drinking any alcohol right after my dad and her got married. And then she got pregnant with me. And so God is going to make a way for my mother as she ages. I just ask for a prayer for that, a covering for that, because right now it's tough. It's tough. And truly God has protected me in our relationship because she's my mom. But her mind is that of emotionally of, I don't mean this in a really negative way, but her mind is really emotionally at a level of a 5-year-old. And often things get very combative with her because she has brain damage. And it's almost like, my friend actually said this, it's like, you just have to talk to her like she's a drunk person. It's just, she's pretty much just like drunk in her mind all the time. And that sometimes, I don't know if you guys have a history of alcoholism, but alcoholics are very emotional and combative. So if you approach them in a way that they feel like you're attacking them, and I can be a pretty direct, communicative person, but even so, my mom just gets triggered because she has a lot of envy over me. And at a very young age, she rejected me. So we're going to get into that, destroying the spirit of rejection or freedom from the spirit of rejection. And I just ask, oh Lord God, that you would use this testimony as a way to show Jesus in and through my life. And also, I just want to say that in this time, even though there are things that maybe we feel like are obstacles, because like I look at this situation where my mom is aging and my dad is aging, and seemingly there's like no money in the bank to take care of them, like no way to age in place. I'm not married yet, so I am on my own. I do have a brother, but he has his own life going on right now. And it feels, because I'm living in it, like there's no other way. And there's just, it feels hopeless. But I'm here to encourage you that throughout my whole life, God has performed so many miracles, even when it seemed like there's literally no way. Like she's going to get hospitalized. She's going to fall and hurt herself. She's already fallen and broken her hip. This was about 3 years ago. Like she's going to harm herself. Something is going to happen in an emergency situation. And that's where my mind goes immediately. And then I go, there's nothing I can do about it. So it feels hopeless. But I want you to know that in these familiar spirits of feeling hopeless or feeling depressed or feeling anxious, there is always a miracle. There is always, our God is a God of hope. There is always a way out of this. So destroying the spirit of rejection. And truly, what I also want to say is, I know that this is going to be a 2-part, but the reason that this is marriage bed preparation is also going back to my fast. Like, I had to communicate with my kingdom spouse my recovery and my healing journey with the spirit of rejection. And I had to be so vulnerable in this space with him. And we kind of had a very confrontational conversation because of the fast. But God was moving through that. He was working through that. And we're both in this place on our healing journeys where we want to get rid of these lingering spirits, him the spirit of insecurity and the spirit of poverty in me, the spirit of rejection, the spirit of lust and envy that have followed me my whole life. And so this was truly an epiphany, or a breaking away of all of that, and knowing, as I saw that principality, I'm healed and I'm whole, and it didn't have to affect me that way. So this is from a book. I wrote a lot of this down from a book by John Eckhardt, and I'll link it below. You can buy it on Amazon if your story resonates with mine. I'll get into that in a second. But his book is called Receive Love and Acceptance and Find Healing by Destroying the Spirit of Rejection. And rejection is one of the most destructive, demonic spirits to enter a person's life. It is a spoiler, meaning it just comes in and it wreaks havoc on your heart and your soul. Truly, I have felt that in my life. And one of the meanings of the verb spoil is ruin. I feel like a lot of my teenage years were ruined. And I'm not going to get emotional about it, but it was very awful. The things that I put myself through, the things that I felt, and the things that I went through as a teenager because of the rejection that I received that came through a doorway from my mother. Therefore, we see that rejection can ruin every life it encounters. The enemy uses rejection to rob people of their dignity, identity, position, power, and authority. Rejection wreaks havoc on people's lives, preventing them from experiencing the fullness and blessing of God. So when I was very young and my mother got pregnant with my brother, this is just a very small example. My mom already had the seed of rejection through her mother, who rejected her as a child. And she suffered emotionally from that. That's the reason why she has so many emotional so much emotional trauma that she lives with every day. And so that rejection was so heavy on her that when she had me, she worked very hard in her deliverance. I actually have a journal that she kept when she got pregnant with me, and she journaled every day, like prayers and blessings for her first child, her firstborn child. But what happened is, as soon as she got pregnant with my brother, she wanted to get rid of me immediately. She was maxed out, and she didn't have time or energy to take care of me at that point. And so at 2.5, she tried to early enroll me into preschool. And this preschool only accepted the youngest age was at 2.5, and you had to be potty trained by then. And so, and this was in the springtime, because my birthday's in November. So my half birthday is in March. And so in the very beginning of spring, when my mother was just about, me and my brother were actually born 3 years and 1 week apart. So when my mom was about 6 months pregnant, she couldn't wait to drop me off from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. My dad would pick me up after he got off work at preschool every day. And she was just pregnant still, but she still just wanted to be with my brother at that point. And I understand that, and I'm not a mother yet, so I'm not knocking anything about this. But my very first day of preschool, I actually fell and broke my leg because I wasn't getting, I was doing something dangerous. I was climbing on the jungle gym, but I fell because I wasn't ready to be out there on my own doing something like that. And so even though my mom wanted to get rid of me, I was actually in a cast and had to be put in diapers again, even though I was already potty trained at 2.5. And it was like my mom had a big baby. All of a sudden, she had a pregnant belly and a big baby again. So that's what she got. And my whole life has kind of been like that, where my mom tries to not have to deal with me. In middle school, this is where it all severed for me. This is where the spirit of lust first started attacking me, was in middle school. And boys who were in a grade above me in PE actually started taunting me and harassing me verbally based on my physical appearance. And it scared me because I didn't understand it. I was a child. And so when I actually tried to talk to my mother about it, she very immediately and very directly, this was in the car driving home from school, she just said to me, she said very sternly, "I'm not your friend. So I don't know what to tell you." And from then there on, at a very young, early teenage year in my life, I knew I was on my own with boys, the spirit of lust, and that doorway of the spirit of rejection into my life through my mother and her words to me and her actions towards me. So then there I took matters into my own hands, as most of us women do when the spirit of rejection comes over us, and it spoils our femininity because we feel like, okay, well now I have to split in two. And John Eckhardt writes it really well. I'll read it in here in a second. But my personality split, and I was no longer me in my development, and I was on this path of trying to reject what had rejected me. So everything at that then thereon was, okay, well, if you're not my friend, then friends are my friends, and that's all that I have, and they're who I talk to, and they're who I get advice from. I did not have an older sister. My cousins and second cousins are much older than me because my parents had us in a later age, and they're all in another state because my mother moved out. My mother and father moved to Oregon after they got married. So I didn't have any direct family, and youth group at my Episcopal church was literally like non-existent. So I didn't have a lot of guidance at that point in my life. As soon as I was in middle school, I became a teenager, is what I'm trying to say. I didn't have a lot of mentorship, female mentorship in my life. And so I rejected everything that rejected me. And so sex, drugs, and alcohol were everything that I knew to go towards because of that doorway of the spirit of rejection. So rejection can be as simple as being told no or being turned down for an opportunity we wanted. Rejection can escalate to being told we don't fit in or we don't belong. We experience rejection on a regular basis as at these levels, which is true. We do get rejected in life very, very commonly. We even reject things that don't work for us, but the most damaging kind of rejection begins very early in life, many times through some kind of abuse, abandonment, or lack of love and affection from a parent. This type of rejection is common to many and sets us off on an unstable course in life that makes it difficult to handle any other rejection that we are sure to come in contact with. That's very true. At that point, I didn't have the skills or the emotional capacity to confront my mother at that age, or to know if a boy was abusing me or harassing me sexually, or that led into the molestation when I was 16 years old and I was molested when I was under the influence of alcohol. So I didn't have proper boundaries. I didn't have the capacity to do that at that age. And we try all kinds of ways to cover up rejection. Very true. I hid my hidden life. That was a very hidden life, my teenage darkness. I went to school. I did my studies. I was a very smart student. I look, unfortunately, everybody associates, blonde girls as like sweet and innocent. And I would just look at you and be like, you have no idea that I smoked weed the entire weekend and got completely blackout drunk. You didn't know that about me, but now you do. And so We try all kinds of ways to cover up rejection by people pleasing, attention seeking, perfectionism. Oh, definitely perfectionism for me. Anger and bitterness, hard-heartedness, pride, isolation, addiction to drugs or alcohol, and sexual promiscuity. Sexual promiscuity was my escape. That is how I found the love that I felt I couldn't receive from my mother at a teenage age in my life. And the enemy did that. He just was like, let's wreak havoc. She's been rejected full on. Let's go in and just ruin her. So we use any number of things to either gain love and acceptance or to protect ourselves from being hurt again. Rejection is a vicious cycle that takes us deeper and deeper into sin and destruction. It's very true. My promiscuity took me all the way through until I was 22 years old. I had I had a fair share of one-night stands that I felt very dominant in and I felt very in control of in my life. Rejection is a vicious cycle. After it does its damage, rejection leaves lives desolated and in ruins. And in that relationship, that sexually abusive relationship that I was in for 8.5 years, I did not even know what was going on. The ruin was I was completely disassociated from what had happened to me or what I had been through. So it took many years after that, including a relationship that I got in where I was a domestic violent relationship that I got into. And that was what took me out and into a place that I knew I needed to heal. So God will always use things for your good, even though they don't feel good at the time. Isaiah 51:3, for the Lord shall comfort Zion. This is my favorite. For the Lord shall comfort Zion. Sorry. Talking about everything just like brings it up. He will comfort all her waste places. Ladies, getting ready for the marriage bed deliverance is so important. I care so much about my kingdom spouse. He has come into my life in a way that only God allowed and never put his hands on me. And never brought up anything physical with me. And has been incredibly understanding and open with me to waiting. And I'm so appreciative, and I want you women to know that in me explaining the vulnerability that I went through in explaining, this spirit of rejection has been a pattern in my life where the lust comes in, men want a sexual experience with me, and then they reject me. It happened over and over again in my sexually abusive relationship, over and over again in a cycle. Ending that cycle is crucial for healing the bloodline. And that is what this is all about. So I'm going to close out with these 2 verses. And if you would love to talk more with me about my own personal testimony, I got a little emotional at the end because it's very impactful. This verse carried me through my healing journey. Isaiah 51:3, for the Lord shall comfort Zion. He will comfort all her waste places, and he will make her wilderness like Eden and her desert like the garden of the Lord. Joy and gladness shall be found therein, thanksgiving and the voice of melody. I love to sing. I love my voice. God has shown me in this time that my gift truly is transformation, helping people who are coming into a place in their life where they know they're no longer going where they were and they're going into a new. That's happened many times in my life that I meet people in that space. And I want to help you ladies come into the new with me. And know that if you haven't met your kingdom spouse yet, or if you're on the cusp, or if you're in this place of like, is it him? Is it not him? That's okay. There's no judgment with that. All I want to say is when these deliverances happen, when you're in the most vulnerable emotional place of your life, sharing that part of who you are, that most vulnerable discovery of your healing journey with those deliverances from those spirits, specifically the spirit of rejection, they should protect you in that. They should cover you in that. And that is how I have felt so secure, even in this separated time, even in this time where we still don't have a time frame for when we will come together, even when we're not really communicating all the time. We only communicate sometimes, and most of it is just online. And that's okay. And that's okay. What I want to preface is that person, shift your mindset to know that what you think you know in a place of darkness and hopelessness, it will all change when God brings the man of God into your life. You will feel so safe, so secure. I used to be so closed, like my wall would go up, and he's seen it. I just go silent when I feel unsettled, when I don't feel safe. And he'll prod me. He used to prod me like, nope, you need to talk. Nope, you have more you want to say. And I wouldn't, because I was still healing. And I was still processing what I was going through and what I had been through. And really not being certain if I could share some of those devastating places I had seen in my life, and the trauma and the spoil, the ruin of who I was, that started as a teenager, a young teenager. So let's close out. Luke 15, verses 4 through 5. What man of you, having 100 sheep, if he lose one of them, doth not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after that which is lost until he find it? And when he hath found it, he layeth it on his shoulders, rejoicing. So I know that I talk about joy a lot. And again, I'm going to speak through these couple next steps, but God isn't going to stop showing you what you need to get through until he rejoices over you. So a lot of this time when we're going through the battlefield of like heaviness, anxiety, slothfulness, lust, familiar spirits trying to come back in, right? In this time, God is showing you it, and even dreams that you maybe think aren't from God, they must be from the devil, like they must be from Satan. Something I learned is that all dreams are from God. Hallelujah. All dreams are from God. I wouldn't say night terrors are from God. That's awful. But dreams, yes. And it's important to decode what you're going through, your emotions, through those messages that you're receiving from God in your dreams. And people don't always represent the actual people. Sometimes they represent spirit. Sometimes my mother in a dream can represent Satan. Sometimes she can represent the Holy Spirit. God does what he wants to do in those dreams, and I have to sit with him while he interprets them to me. So things are coming back up. We feel a little beat up right now, but there is redemption, taken out of bondage. There is salvation. Being saved is instant, right? Most of us have that. Reconciliation is a process. Being reconciled with the Father, establishing that covenant again with him, making that promise to be obedient and to follow him and have him Lord over our life. Deliverance is instant. However, restoration, this time of restoration, is a process. So it's going to take time. Healing our men, healing myself. And then establishing footsteps, being planted, building a house, building that foundation. I remember in 2019, actually, before I met my kingdom spouse, I had a couple days where I was just in tears with the person that I did go into business with. We had some vulnerable conversations, but I remember one specific journal entry that day where I was like, Lord, I don't feel established. I need you to establish me. This was in 2008. This was in like May, June of 2018. And I was crying out to the Lord for him to establish me. And he did. And then I met my kingdom spouse, literally just like a couple months later. So that might be key for somebody, just to pray for God to establish you. And then the last one is exaltation, where God takes us up higher. And it can be lonely at the top, right? My fellow believers, we kind of look down and we're like, okay, I literally see that person's not, in the world, and they're going through it, and I don't really want to associate with them. I see a lot of that on a regular basis, where I just don't need to associate with it anymore. So it can be lonely, but that's why we have each other. So also, just a shout out to one of my most precious followers, and her business is called Majesty Unlimited. She makes these really cool, and I love this color. She makes all kinds of colors in these sweatshirts and hooded sweatshirts. This is a crew neck, but it's Yahweh or No Way. And so I have to shout out to her. And I'm going to put the link to her store below so you can buy yourself one. And she double portioned my gift to me. And this one is in a really cool cheetah print. I haven't unwrapped it yet, but I wear this all the time because it's my color. And yeah, it's very special to me. So please, yeah, just continue to reach out to me, ladies. And so this is just part one, but it's really important. We're going to get into the next part of this series on, maybe I'll do 3 parts, I don't know, freedom from rejection, marriage bed preparation. The marriage bed is where we're going to continue the bloodline for our children. And so we have to cleanse our wombs, women, and men really heal heal your broken hearts, right? So the rib was taken out, and God healed Adam where the rib was taken out before he was bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. So that healing is so important before we become one in the marriage bed. Anyway, so I love you all so much, and let's just support each other and be our community and lift each other up in this time. And if you need me, you know how to reach me. Love you guys. Bye.